The small diner sat on the corner of Maple Street, its rust-red sign flickering every time a cold wind passed. Inside, the smell of frying eggs and freshly brewed coffee wrapped around anyone who walked through the door. For most people, it was just a place to grab a quick bite. But for a hungry boy named Ion, it was the only place that felt like hope. Ion was barely 12. Thin, quiet, and always carrying a school bag that looked much too old, he would show up at the diner every evening. He never asked for anything. He simply stood near the counter, staring at the floor, waiting. And every day, without fail, Maria, the owner, would slide a warm plate of food toward him and pretend she needed help filling water glasses so he wouldn't feel embarrassed taking charity. She never asked him why he came alone, or why he looked so tired, or why his clothes were always the same. She just fed him, day after day, night after night. It had become a silent promise between them. She cared for him like the son she never had. Ion would eat quietly, thank her in a soft voice, and slip out before the dinner rush began. Most customers never even noticed him. He was like a shadow, present, but unseen. One winter evening, the diner was unusually crowded. A shiny black car pulled up, and a tall man in a tailored coat stepped inside. People immediately recognized him. He was Samuel Grant, a millionaire businessman known for his massive real estate empire. He rarely visited small places like this, but tonight he wanted something simple. Something real. Maria welcomed him warmly, just as she did with everyone. She served him her special soup, and he complimented her cooking with genuine admiration. As Samuel waited for his meal, his eyes landed on Ion, who had just slipped in through the door, shivering from the cold. The boy took his usual spot near the counter, lowering his head. Maria handed him a plate as she always did, but this time Samuel watched the exchange carefully. He noticed the way the boy clutched the food, the speed at which he ate, the hunger in every bite. And he noticed Maria's gentle smile, one that carried a story much deeper than kindness alone. After finishing his meal, Samuel signaled for Maria. She wiped her hands on her apron, a bit nervous, wondering if something had been wrong with the food. Instead, he asked quietly, "Who is that boy?" Maria hesitated. She had always respected Ion's privacy. She didn't know every detail, but she understood enough. His father had abandoned the family, his mother worked 2 jobs just to survive, and some nights they barely had anything to eat. Maria looked at Samuel and said simply, "He's a good kid. He just needs a little help." Samuel nodded, but his eyes stayed on the boy, as if imagining a life he recognized from far too long ago. Before he became a millionaire, he himself had been a child raised by a struggling single mother. He knew hunger. He knew silence. He knew the ache of looking at food you couldn't afford. When Ion finished eating and began to leave, Samuel stood and walked toward him. The boy glanced up, startled, unsure why a man dressed like royalty was approaching him. Samuel knelt slightly so they were at eye level. "What's your name?" he asked gently. Ion answered in his small voice, unsure if he'd done something wrong. "Do you like coming here?" Samuel asked. Ion looked toward Maria and nodded shyly. "She feeds me. She's kind." Samuel felt a tightness in his chest. He reached into his coat, pulled out a business card, and offered it to the boy, who simply stared at it, not knowing what to do. "I'd like to help you," Samuel said. "But only if you want the help." Ion looked confused but took the card politely. Then he quickly hurried out, disappearing into the quiet night. Samuel stayed behind, speaking with Maria long after the diner closed. He asked about Ion's family, his school, his struggles, anything that might reveal how he could support the boy without making him feel smaller or ashamed. Maria told him everything she knew, her voice occasionally trembling with emotion. The next morning, Samuel visited the address Maria had given him. Ion's mother opened the door, exhausted and cautious, wiping flour from her clothes after her bakery shift. Samuel introduced himself, but she recognized the name immediately from the news. She panicked, unsure why a millionaire would show up at her home. He gently explained that he had met Ion at the diner, and that he wanted to help. Not with charity, he made clear, but with opportunity. Ion's mother listened in disbelief as Samuel offered a full scholarship for Ion at one of the best schools in the city, along with financial support for tutoring, clothing, and meals. She began crying softly, apologizing for her tears, overwhelmed by the weight of hope she hadn't felt in years. When Ion came home from school and saw Samuel sitting in their small living room, he froze. He didn't understand why someone so important would want anything to do with him. Samuel smiled and said, "I'd like to be your mentor, if you'll let me." For the first time, the boy smiled, not because he fully understood what was happening, but because for once, someone believed he was worth something. Months passed. Ion's life transformed piece by piece. He studied in a better school, learned confidently, made new friends, and grew stronger in every way. Samuel visited often, guiding him, supporting him, treating him not as a project, but as someone who mattered. Maria continued to see him at the diner sometimes, but now he came wearing a neat school uniform and carrying new books. The way his eyes shone made her heart full. Years later, when Ion graduated with honors and received a scholarship to a prestigious university, Samuel stood proudly beside him, like a father watching his own son achieve the impossible. And Maria, wearing her old apron, wiped her tears with a smile brighter than the diner's flickering sign. Ion never forgot the warm plate of food that kept him going. He never forgot the woman who fed him. And he never forgot the millionaire who didn't just change his life, he gave him a future. Because sometimes, a single act of kindness is enough to keep a person alive. But the right person, at the right moment, can change a life forever.